Hello there, and welcome back to the Codex. So today I'm going to bring you a very comfortable but very powerful Ember build. Basically, I wanted to make a different Ember build than perhaps what you usually see, which is the Overguard Augment Healing Flame. I'm not a huge fan of having to spam that repeatedly at high levels basically every second just to stay alive. So I was trying to think of basically how to turn her into a health tank, and we came up with the build that we have today. So first let's go ahead and go over the Archon Shards for that. So we're using 2 Tau-Forged Violets for the equilibrium effect. Basically, we're using 2 Topazes for the gain 2 health per enemy killed with blast damage, max 450 health. So since we're using 2 of these, that means that we're going to get 900 health from this. And we're using 1 casting speed shard. Now the theme of this build is going to be basically a combination of very tanky health tanking along with being a very good weapons platform. So if you do want to lead more into the weapons platform side of things, you could drop the casting speed for an Emerald Archon Shard to give yourself the 13 corrosive stacks for a 98% armor strip. That way you would have nearly a full strip without having to use Fire Blast, for example. So it's up to you whether or not, like how much you care about Fire Blast. Let's go take a look at the actual build here. Now with that in mind, if you don't care about Fire Blast, you could do a different version of this build where you drop Overextended. That would give you 60% strength back, because really the only reason you would care about range is if you are using Fire Blast. And I suppose if you want to buff your allies with a Fireball Frenzy, because this is range based for giving your allies the buff. But pretty much if you're playing solo, like which a lot of you are, you're only going to care about range if you have Fire Blast. So if you don't want to run Overextended, you could run Prime Continuity, for example, and have even more duration uptime on your Fireball Frenzy buff. And that would also make the immolation meter go down slower because it scales with both efficiency and duration. And we do have negative efficiency, so you can benefit from a lot of duration in that regard. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do the build. Now moving on to the actual version of the build that we are going to use today. Here's the build. We've replaced the 4th ability with Omamori, which effectively functions as a 50% damage reduction, but it also heals you. So this is one of the things that makes it super comfy, is not only is it, like I said, 50% DR, but you'll randomly get health back, and if you're already at full health, it'll even go into shields, which will be able to re-trigger your shield gate. We have a decent amount of strength between Transient Fortitude and Blind Rage. Even though we are using Overextended, that still puts us at 194%. And with Molt Augmented, this gives you another 60%. One more variation of the build that you could do, just to give you guys a few options today, is you could swap Molt Augmented for Arcane Aegis for the shield regen effect. Then you could also drop Growing Power or Brief Rest, but that way every time that you cast Fire Blast, for example, if you are using this often, this would basically allow you to fairly consistently trigger and keep Aegis up. That way you have a very hefty shield gate before they can even get to your very tanky health. Speaking of health, we are using Arcane Blessing, which this is on health pickup, gives you extra max health. When you max this out at 50 stacks, this gives you an extra 1200 health. So between the 1200 health from Arcane Blessing and the 900 health from the 2 Topaz Blast Shards, that is 2100 extra health, which when you pair that with the 370 base health that she has, means that you'll have 2470 health. So nearly 2.5k health. Now 2.5k health, but she only has 160 armor. That's why we're using health conversion. Health conversion is going to be triggered very reliably thanks to having Synth Deconstruct on your companion. You guys know I love that mod. It's on basically all my companion builds. Thanks to your companion consistently helping you drop health orbs, you'll constantly have this extra 1,350 armor, which takes you from 160 armor to closer to 1.5k armor. Now, when you pair all of that armor with a up to 90% damage reduction from Immolation, a up to 90% damage reduction from Adaptation, and the I feel like I'm forgetting one. The 50% DR from Omamori. That is a lot of effective health. So this is a very, very comfortable health tank build. And you pair that with a Fireball Frenzy for the guaranteed heat damage, which does not combine, by the way. So if you're using a weapon like a melee influence, electric only melee build, this will not turn that into radiation. It'll add uncombined extra heat on the side. So you're now doing pure electric and pure heat. So it's a very powerful bonus. Very cool how that works. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and talk about the weapons. The weapons, you can use whatever you want. The only thing that is mandatory if you want to use this Archon Shards setup is that, of course, you have to have a weapon that's doing blast damage. So in my case, that's the Kompressa here with this Blast Innervate build. This build is so good on this Ember build because it's built for Blast Magnetic Viral on the build here, but we're also adding on free heat. And with the massive amount of stash chance that the Kompressa has, pairing the Blast procs, making Innervate stack up super fast all the way up to occasionally getting red crits, paired with the massive heat proc stacking, makes us do absolutely hilarious damage. And it's also very good against Acolytes, as you'll see in the gameplay here. Now, the primary that I'm using today is a electric primary crux build Phantasma, which again, this is going to be both a ton of electric procs and a ton of heat procs. Again, thanks to that Fireball Frenzy augment, so double dot on the enemy here. It absolutely melts enemies like crazy. And then we're just using a classic influence setup on the Okina, which again, this will get buffed by the fact that we're going to be both influence spreading these electric procs and the heat procs, again, from that delicious Fireball Frenzy augment. Let's go ahead and hop into a mission here and showcase how good this is. All right, so here we are on the mission. Of course, at the very start here, it's going to be when you're the weakest, when you only have your 370 health. So if you want to quickly rack up that Topaz bonus, go ahead and pull out your Kompressa and just start killing guys until you max out that extra 900 health, thanks to the blast kills give health bonus from the Archon Shard. And also, as you pick up health orbs, you'll also be stacking up that Arcane Blessing. So you will rapidly go from 370 health to 1,000 plus, and then eventually you'll cap at, like I said, about 2.5k health. Which, like I said, when you pair with all these damage reductions, makes you extremely tanky. This is a very comfortable build for me. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the Overguard Ember build, because once you get to higher levels, you have to, it's like the problem with Kalervo that was recently solved by his augment. You have to keep spamming the ability that gives you Overguard just to stay alive, so it's less time to actually just focus on killing the enemies. You're just casting just to not die. So I would much rather have a super tanky health tank build that's able to survive any realistic level of content that the average player actually does. Obviously, if you want to go to something like level cap, this is not going to work well. But 99% of you aren't doing that. So for the actual realistic level of content that you guys are going to do, you know, like level 200, 300, 400, 500, so on, this is a very comfortable build, very strong build. The extra heat damage buff is absolutely insane. I mean, if you look at the Phantasma here, you can see that I'm applying like 50 electric procs and 50 heat procs instantly to everybody that I shoot, just absolutely melting them. Thankfully, we got the good room here too, so that's nice. I'll show you how funny the influence Okina setup is when you're influence spreading both electric and heat procs. Let's go ahead and activate that. And as you can see, it absolutely shreds. Not only, of course, is your upfront damage much higher on the direct person you're actually killing, but again, you have the benefit of doing now a double damage over time influence spreading. You're spreading both electric and heat procs. So for example, when you spread those heat procs to a guy that's 20 meters away and he starts burning from that, even if he survives the initial dot, he's now losing up to 50% of his armor thanks to the status effects of heat damage. So once you do make your way over to him, he's real softened up for you to finish him off and keep spreading those influence procs everywhere. So super powerful. And also make sure you pay attention to Ember's passive effect. One of the benefits of having positive range on Fire Blast and actually using Fire Blast is that you can do this. And you can see, boom, I just activated a 115% strength bonus thanks to her passive, because I didn't mention her passives. So for those of you that aren't aware of it, it's 5% ability strength for every enemy within affinity range affected by heat proc. So this is a ton of extra free power strength that you can use to absolutely juice up that Fireball Frenzy, for example. Right now I just cast like a, what does that say, 478% heat damage buff? Absolutely insane how much extra damage that is. Let me go ahead and pull that Kompressa back out because I didn't actually finish getting those blast kills, I don't believe. Plus, it's just funny how much damage this thing does on this version of the build. And this is the weapon, probably along with the Okina. If you were to copy my exact setup, for example, the Kompressa or the Okina are the weapons that you definitely want to use to take out the Acolyte. This thing, if you fire blast the Acolyte to take all of its armor off, and then you hit it with this, it absolutely gets melted, which of course I'll show you guys. And you can see here that thanks to the blast interaction and the delayed detonation interaction on the Kompressa, you're actually able to hit even right there. We just hit a bunch of red crits with the Kompressa, which is hilarious. That's one of the reasons, for example, why you saw Magnetic Might on my build. Not only is the extra magnetic damage nice, but it is another 40% crit damage. And that scales really well once you get up to red crits. So yeah, absolutely amazing damage here. The Kompressa is a super fun weapon to use in this build. At first I didn't think of it, then I was like, you know what, this would be perfect for free heat procs. Now here comes the Acolyte. Now he's about to get absolutely melted by the Kompressa. As you'll see here, let's go ahead and wait for him. I'm just gonna hit him with the double fire blast to make sure he's fully stripped. And then he is about to get absolutely... Right, yeah, look at that. Look at the detonations just completely eradicating his bar. Usually he actually dies faster than that, so that was actually a bit of a slow one, but it's funny to see the bubbles hit him, take a little bit of health away, and then they detonate and it goes, woof, the bar just disappears. It's fantastic. Yeah, not much else to say. Just make sure that you keep your Omamori up for that 50% damage reduction and that free healing. And aside from that, it's super comfy. You can easily take this build. Like right now, these guys are only level 200, for example, but you can easily take this up to level 300, 400, 500. It'll scale quite well, especially if you want to make it even more comfortable, like I mentioned earlier, and do that swap where you replace Molt Augmented with Arcane Aegis, and you replace your Aura mod with Brief Respite. Then you will be wildly tanky. And even with sacrificing that strength, especially thanks to the fact that her passive gives you free power strength, you'll still have plenty of strength for Fireball Frenzy to give you a massive heat damage bonus. So don't feel like you're not massively nerfing the build by doing that swap. So it's totally fine to do that. Or of course, if you felt like, you know, freeing up a mod slot to fit in the Healing Flame augment, then you could have the, you know, maybe the best of both worlds. You could get health healing back from that, and it would also give you the occasional Overguard buff. But you don't have to rely on the Overguard to stay alive. That's the part that I didn't like about the pure Overguard build. Totally up to you, the way you want to do. I just wanted to give you guys a comfortable Ember build here. It's very fun, it's very strong. You guys can let me know what you think down below. Are you gonna try it out? Do you have any tweaks you would use for it? Would you use maybe a different helmet ability? I'm always curious what you guys have to say rather. And yeah, that's about it. I will see you guys in the next one.